Hi there everyone, Skateboard Stephen back with another video match report. So this is a pickup game from last week's club night at the Thanet Wargaming Club. This is a re-rack after my first game into Butchers, trying out veteran captain Greede. So this is, as I said, another game from the same evening where we have a bit of a retry, and veteran captain Greede this time goes on the kick, which is, according to standard internet wisdom at the moment, is his ideal position for the start of the game. So let's see how it goes. So going down the lineups, you have Veteran Gutter, Ox, Shank, Princess, Boiler and Brisket on the Butcher's side, and Grace, Minx who's kicking, Greede, O-Rage and Fangtooth on the Union side. So a slight change up on the Union team with Fangtooth, but otherwise the Butcher's team is the same as last week's opponent. So there goes Minx, lovely long jog that she has. In hindsight, probably should have put her in the cover when kicking, just as good practice. And I believe I get an accurate kick, and instead of rolling 5 to the 1, which would have put it straight into the Butcher's team, I re-roll 4 inches to the 5, which is obviously lovely out on that flank right there. So my opponent, as you can see, is allocating his influence out before I do mine. There's a lot of decision making really about, does he just straight up go in with someone, does he go in and prep with someone, what are his options here? In the end he decides to go in with Shank. Shank can get to me, so Shank is going to charge Minx, who does defensive stance, again should have stayed in that cover, up to a 5-1, so he only gets a single success on the charge and gets a momentous 1 damage and a dodge. Then he gets a second lot of momentous 2 damage and a dodge, and then his final attack he does a momentous 3. So Minx is going to activate. Minx is going to jog base to base with Shank, knowing that his double dodge is reasonably high up. He is going to declare a counter attack as well against her attacks. She scores a momentous 3 damage, dodge and snared. His counter attack just does 2 damage and a dodge. I then do a second attack, momentous 3 damage and dodge, and then I will back to the shadows, still with 2 influence on me, and into my cover. Sorry, I heal myself, then I back to the shadows, because you can't heal yourself after backing to the shadows, so back to the shadows is an end of activation trigger. So my opponent then looks at Gutter, who's his only model really who can get the ball into the game, and he knows I can kill it almost as fast as he can, if not faster than he can. Ox is legendary dependent, so he needs to probably get control of the ball for both threat range and potentially scoring a goal later in the game. So Gutter sprints, snaps the ball and then kicks to space. It goes massively past Ox, and nowhere that he can intercept it, and ponks into the goal post. So it will go behind the goal post, but because the goal post is in the way, it will hit there and save my opponent not being able to get any momentum. So Greede is going to activate next. He's going to forward minions everybody, and then push Rage 2 inches forward just for an extra bit of threat range, and then he's going to just jog into the cover, spread his shelling out aura. Ox is going to jog backwards to collect the ball, then jog forwards to get into cover and be within 3 of Shank. He's then going to pass to Shank, who then uses the dodge to go back over the cover and heals, and then he heals Shank by 4, just to get Shank back up some health there after that little bit of beating from Minx. So Grace is going to quick foot through Rage onto Fangtooth. She's then also going to talisman it onto Minx, so potentially I could send Minx with her last 2 attacks in to go kill Shank, or to go at least cause a massive problem for Shank at any rate. So Princess is just going to go for a stalling jog. Rage is actually going to tool up Fangtooth and then jog, rather than go charging in. Brisket is going to jog. There's a lot of stalling going on here. And Fangtooth is also going to jog. So then that gives me the option for my final activation of, do I go with Fangtooth or do I go with Minx? And yes, that is Fangtooth jogging 8 inches, thanks to 2 speed buffs. So Boiler is going to mark target Fangtooth to trigger resilience. He's then going to mark target Fangtooth again so that he can get a charge off, and he misses, which is really unfortunate. He's then going to just sprint forwards. So Fangtooth pretty much got who does he want to attack right now. So I'm thinking I want to try and stay in my Shelling Out aura. I want to try and trigger as many unmaskings as possible, which means I can get close enough but not quite get shank in. I can only jog there, so I readjust back to make sure I'm in the Shelling Out aura. I do then unleash myself. So for anyone at home, unleashed plus tooled up do both count for unmasking, so they do both cause unmasking damage increases. So I punch, I get a momentous 2 up to 4. My second attack, I roll really poorly and score and decide to take the momentous knockdown. And then my final attack, I get a momentous 3 up to 5 damage unmasking. So obviously, Boiler, Ox and Princess are not happy about that 5 damage coming in at the end there. So going into turn 2, the Butchers have no momentum and the Union have 3. The Butcher's going to choose 110%, or give me 110% for the extra 2 influence. And the Union are going to pick Pass Out the Orange Slices just for a little bit of healing on the models that have taken some damage. I didn't want to play a high-ish card, but I also didn't want to play a low card just in case my opponent played a high card to steal initiative. So I have got initiative, so Fangtooth will activate first. I was hoping to take him out in 1 or 2 hits, and then have another hit to perhaps go impose myself somewhere where he didn't want me. So I attack Boiler, score a momentous 2. Not quite what I was after, but then I unleash myself, and oh no, this is the attack that goes terribly. I get a non-momentous 1 that goes up to 2. Thanks to Unleashed, and then final attack is a momentous 2 up to 3, which takes out Boiler, so we're looking at 0-2 in favour of the Union. Fangtooth heals himself 4 and then jogs to engage Gutter to prevent that sweeping charge kicking off, which I would not be happy about with all of my team as closely knit as they are. So Ox throws a They Ain't Tough at Fangtooth, triggers Resilience. After he's looking at, does he just legendary go straight into Greede, especially given that Greede has 5 influence at the moment. Do we just completely and utterly remove that option from the table, which is a good idea. I think in the end my opponent chooses to go against Fangtooth, so he's going to have a measure of a couple of different options here. Who does he consider going after? Who does he attack? But in the end we do decide Fangtooth is the option. So he's going to try They Ain't Tough on Fangtooth to trigger Resilience. He's then going to try a second one on Fangtooth. Misses the first one, and then does a second one to pop the Resilience. Ox is then going to Legendary, because might as well at this point in time, got a few players who are still left to activate. Scores a momentous 2 up to 4. Ox heals himself, and then does a non-momentous 3 up to 5 and a momentous 3 up to 5. I don't know why I've got both of those listed, one as non-momentous, one as momentous. I think there was some confusion about possibly taking a character play here. So they may have both been momentous choices. So that leaves Fangtooth not looking too happy, and Ox is legendary active. So send Minx base to base with Ox, who does declare a counter attack. Don't roll too great, so I'll score a momentous 1 damage dodge snared. Important thing being that it takes him down to being a 2-2. His counter attack does manage 1 damage, it goes up to 3 thanks to the legendary and his generic standard aura that he has active all the time. I'll then get another momentous 1 damage dodge, not doing so well really on these dice. Momentous 3 damage dodge, just a little bit better, followed by another momentous 3 damage dodge, and then I heal myself for 4. I debate whether or not to heal Fangtooth, but then I realise you're going to kill Fangtooth anyway. It's just giving the Butcher's player more chance to generate momentum. So I decide, no, that's a bad idea. And then she backs to the shadows and gets out of Greede's way. Gutter is going to activate, and she's going to attack Fangtooth, and I do declare a counter attack. He might not score the knockdown on the attack, so I risk it. But he does score the knockdown, so I don't get my counter attack. He then does a momentous 2 up to 4, a momentous 3 up to 5 to take out Fangtooth. It takes us to 2-2. He's going to heal Ox for 4, and then jog and attack Minx. So the idea here, I think, was just to get a bit more damage in against one of my players, and does a momentous 1 up to 3 damage. Thanks to, again, all those Ox auras. So I'm looking at Ox. I need to get rid of Ox. Don't like this this aura that he's got going on thanks to the legendary, and he's still got 2 players to go. So Greede's going to charge Ox, who does defensive stance. I do bonus time the charge attack, and actually I'm really glad I did, because I wrap to the knockdown. Now I also pick the top end non-momentous 4 goes up to 5 because of the lance rule damage result. So this puts Ox snared and knocked down, so he's defense 1 armor 2 now. I then start buying attacks, so I get a momentous 2 and a momentous 2, and I bonus time the last attack and score the momentous 3 to get the takeout. So that puts it 2-4 in favour of the Union, gets Ox's legendary off the table when he's got 2 more models to go, which I'm pretty happy about, because I don't really want Minx to go down this turn. Or Greede, actually, because with Ox's legendary he possibly could have done that as well. So my opponent's looking at his options. Where does he go next? Does he go for a goal, potentially, with Shank? Shank could get there, but Shank would need to go into Rage's melee and score a double dodge. So it's risky, and the double dodge isn't actually the easiest to get on Shank's playbook. I think he could possibly get it on the charge, but if I defensive stance, it really skews the numbers. And as you can see, I've got enough momentum to be defensive stancing. So, and obviously the worry there is with where Gutter is, Rage could just charge her with his initial activation and just cause her some trouble. So my opponent is either wanting to score a goal, kill Rage, or tie Rage up so he can't do anything. Obviously he doesn't want to be going through Greede's melee, because Greede has a knockdown on 2, unless he can dodge out of Greede's melee. Doesn't really want any of that. So in the end, Shank decides to where they go, unsnap the ball to Princess and charge Rage, who does defensive stance, because frankly I'd rather he just scored really low on his dice, and I do have the momentum in comparison to my opponent, as you can see laid out there. So on the charge, he manages a momentous 2, and on the follow-up attack, another momentous 2, so it's 4 damage into Rage. So Grace is just going to jog as her activation. Nothing flashy. Again, I've got that second activation in the bag for someone should I need it, and at the moment Rage is engaged, so he can't do anything particularly himself. Princess jogs and unsnaps the ball to Brisket. Grace will jog base to base with Shank, and she'll healing light through Rage onto Minx, just a bit more free healing thanks to Talisman. Brisket is going to jog and super shot herself and bonus time a shot on goal. She has to go and engage and be engaged by Grace, unfortunately, just due to the distance. It doesn't stop him. She smacks one into the post and goes 6-4 in favour of the Butchers. She does also dodge backwards, I believe, after scoring the goal into cover, just to get herself away from some of my players. The ball scatters out to there. Sorry, I kick the ball out to there, and then it scatters just behind veteran Greede. Not close enough for him to snap. I was debating whether or not I go on a tortoise-based goal run, but in the end, we'll see about that next turn. Rage is going to activate. He's going to walk into Shank, and he's going to heroic and smack Shank for a momentous 3 damage up to 4. The counterattack does do a 2 damage dodge. In hindsight, I probably should have gone base to base, but knowing that Greede can push me around if I need him to, it seemed like a smart move. So he's bleeding as well due to the effect from Rage's attack. Grace is still engaging him, it should be said. Just to note for later, because again, that 1-inch melee. So we're looking at coming to the start of the next turn. My opponent has 1 momentum. I have 6. He plays Form a Wall because I think he's worried that I'm going to try and score a goal. And I play Lock Them Down to give an opponent's model -1 tack. Now the model at the moment I'm actually most scared of is Gutter, so I give her the -1 tack. Mostly because she's not engaged by anyone, so she can do that sweeping charge if she wants. And actually, I think she might be able to place herself in a way that she'd hit at least 2, maybe even 3 models. Probably 2 actually. And I don't want none of that, if I'm honest. So I am then looking at where do I go with activating first. You know, I've got Greede. Gutter's got a ton of influence on her. So's Brisket, but unpredictable movement, such a nightmare to get around unless you've got 2-inch melee models, of which I only have 1 in this team. So, you know, I can mostly ignore Brisket. There's no influence on Shank, so I'm not going to pay attention to him. So it's actually Gutter that I want to give a beating to. So Mink's going to jog to Gutter, score a momentous 1 damage dodge snared, and then make a second attack. The second attack, she manages to score the momentous 4 damage double dodge. So she backs away from from Veteran Gutter. That's her name. Gets out of her melee because I did stop at the 1-inch melee. I'm then gonna I'm gonna go for my jog. Sorry, and then I'm gonna axe throw Shank. Sorry, no, I've been for my jog. Sorry, I axe throw Shank after my double dodge. 3 damage snared just to set him up. I think he's got very little health left. Maybe he's got less than 5. I think, and then we'll back to the shadows round that way. So I've got a few models between me and Brisket, and I think even Gutter would have trouble. So my opponent decides to activate Brisket, who decides to charge Greede. So I defensive stance and counterattack with my last 2 momentum. She does come base to base with me, and manages, unfortunately, to roll really poorly and just gets the 1 damage on the charge, thanks to, again, the defensive stance and the armor 2, so def 4, armor 2. I do manage on the counter attack to get the double push, so I push her out of melee with Greede, because frankly I don't want any more gang ups happening, assuming that he was going to come in next with Veteran Gutter. So he then throws a Dirty Knives at Greede just to lower Greede's defense, do a bit of damage and poison. So I activate Greede, potentially make a poor choice here by pushing Rage base to base with Shank instead of pushing him out of melee so he could charge, but never mind. I then charge Gutter, who does defensive stance. I score a momentous 3 up to 4. Again, I don't roll the greatest. And then I buy 3 attacks and score a momentous 2, and the final attack does come in at a momentous 2. So that does manage to take out a fully stacked Gutter, you know, who was probably in a good position at that point. So it takes it 6-8 in favour of the Union. Sorry, 6-6 in favour of the Union. I then heal Rage because he's taken a little bit of damage. My opponent then uses Princess to jog and engage Rage, just, you know, to do a bit of stuff into causing Rage less attacks. Rage is then going to use his single attack to attack Shank, and score a momentous 3, again because Shank is a defense 3 and I've got Grace there. It does get a takeout, which takes it to 6-8 in favour of the Union. I then choose not to attack Princess, although I probably could have at this stage on the basis that my opponent, you know, he's got 2 models that are nowhere near me, so actually it probably wouldn't have mattered for the rest of the turn. But I take the parting blow for 4 damage and then heal myself by 4. Notably disengaging myself, so if I choose to activate him second this turn, it's all good. Boiler sprints and axe throws at Greede, marks target and mark targets Greede as well. I just jog Fangtooth as a stalling action. My opponent sprints Ox. Rage clears conditions from Greede, and then actually he's in charge range of Ox from where he is at the moment. Barely, but just about. So he is going to charge Ox, because Ox is a 2-2, and I think I can leverage more attack on that side of the pitch, just to try and get these some more points for the takeouts towards the win. So I do charge Ox. My opponent has no momentum at this stage, so I get a momentous 3, and then obviously it bleeds Ox as well. So that wasn't too bad. The Berserk attack, unfortunately, fluffs it and does nothing. So we go on to my next activation, because my opponent is a couple of models down, and we go Grace will charge, or Talisman, sorry, to quick for herself so she can charge Ox, and she just scores a momentous 2 on that charge, which leaves Ox on 4 health. So after he bleeds, he's on a single point of health left, which means actually between Boiler and Greede, Boiler and Ox, let's get the 2 names right, they aren't on a lot of health. So Butchers have 0 momentum coming into this turn, and Union have 5. My opponent plays Boot Sponsorship, possibly because it's one of his only cards left, and I play Aggressive Defence. So my models gain Poised whilst in my opponent's side of the pitch. I think it's just my highest card, and I just wanted to make sure that I could potentially score it. Just win initiative. So I choose Greede to activate first, and he charges Boiler, who does defensive stance, and it should be noted is in cover. So I score a momentous 2 up to 3, thanks to that charge and defensive stance. I then attack with a bonus time and do 1 damage. Ooh. I then make another attack and get a momentous 2, and my final attack is a bonus timed attack, and I manage to score the momentous 3 and get the takeout on Boiler, which puts us into 6-10 in favour of the Union. And then I have my last point of influence, which is going to go into a bonus timed attack on Ox, which scores a momentous 2, and he's only got that 1 HP left, making the takeout on Ox 6-12 in favour of the Union. So not much more really to talk about outside of what we already know from the previous game, I guess. Veteran Greede again leverages that threat range insanely well with his team. He's really good with that second activation if you either need to use it to increase threat range, hello ridiculous Jog Fangtooth, or if you can disengage Rage. I think, as I said in the roundup to my previous video, I would treat Veteran Captain Greede a little bit like he's a Furious model, just to stop him getting those charges, because again, those charges are what really help me take out players in this game. So another big thanks to Mike for being willing to be on film, and we'll see you again next time.